next episode is about a family wedding I went to last week. My whole family went to it. Our whole extended family was there, and it was really nice. It was the first big family get-together that we have had since coronavirus started. So we were able to have the big group there again. All right, now it was lovely, and to some extent, my daughter would say, she's Gen Z, by the way. My daughter would say, that's all you need to know. But, and I agree with her, here comes Gen Z, by the way. They've got a different perspective to the rest of us, because for someone like my daughter, from her perspective, it was the first wedding she had ever been to, by the way. It was the first wedding any of my children had been to. From their perspective, that was the very definition of a wedding, because it was the first one they'd ever been to it. Actually, my son said, how come nothing went wrong? And I know what he meant by that. Because he had never been to a wedding before. And from his perspective, all he has ever seen in terms of evidence about how weddings go and what they're like, all his only experience has been on the TV or whatever, American sitcoms and movies, that sort of thing, where you have a wedding and everything goes wrong. It's absolutely chaos. The groom brings a pretzel, a cheesel instead of the wedding ring accidentally. Goes to pull out the wedding ring and he's lost it, and all he's got is a burger ring. So they use that, and the car breaks down, and then there's a big family drama along the way and all that sort of stuff, and two people are fighting, and someone's dress gets ruined and all that sort of stuff. That's the slapstick nature of a wedding in most movies and all that sort of thing. So my son thought that's the way weddings were. Whereas we went to this wedding, and it was just it was organised beautifully. It was stylish and classy and conservative. My mother, she said, it was a very conservative wedding, really, when you think about it. It was all just done neatly and nicely, and nobody got drunk and all that sort of stuff. I think we were all just glad to be at a big family event again, and the bride was glowing, and so was the other bride. And right there is where, for we older people, the wedding was a little bit different than what we were used to, because it was a same-sex marriage, made possible by a vote, and most Australians voted this way, made possible by a vote in 2017 that allowed same-sex couples to marry. Okay. Now, but from my daughter's perspective, 2017, that's a quarter of her life. Around about that, yeah, it would be. Actually, it's more than a quarter of her life. And from her perspective, this was this was just a standard wedding, because she has never seen anything else. And I'm pretty sure she can't remember a time, even though it was only 2017, 4 years ago, that people weren't allowed to marry unless one was, how shall you put it, one was physically a male and the other one was physically a female. It wasn't allowed, but from her perspective, what's a wedding, A wedding is what she went to just then. And if she were to, my daughter, if she was to listen to me now thinking about and going on to chat about the same-sex aspects of the wedding and all that sort of stuff, which were actually invisible on the day. Once you were there, it became a non-factor. The fact that it was a same-sex marriage. It was just classy and stylish, and one of the brides was in a tux and the other one was in a bride dress, but it was no one even talked about it because it would have just come across silly. Say, well, like if you were there and you said, isn't this funny? We are at a same-sex marriage. It would have been just dumb to sort of even bring that up at any of the tables. No one was talking like that, because once you were there at this wedding, you kind of, the minute you walked in, you forgot about all that, because the bride came down and the other bride was waiting and all that sort of stuff, and it was just beautiful, and all that sort of stuff. And because both of them were glowing and all that sort of stuff and happy and all that sort of stuff, you would have felt a bit silly and churlish and Neanderthal if you had then gone back to your tables at the reception and started, sort of saying, oh wow, and here comes the bride, and here comes the other bride, and if you tried to make little jokes like that, everyone would have said, what? Oh yeah, we forgot. This is what most people, when you were there, your feeling was, oh yeah, it is a same-sex marriage, but you forgot, and that's how quickly it goes. It reminds me, it's how quickly the traditions can change. It reminds me of how when I was young, a mixed marriage was one, where an Anglican married a Catholic, and that was bizarre. And anybody who suggested that should happen, it was bizarre, And but once people started, once Anglicans started marrying Catholics and all that sort of stuff, then anybody who said it's not, oh, well, look at that, a Catholic married an Anglican, you knew they were over 80. And this is the way it's going to be with us oldies, until such time as we have the good grace to die already. It's only going to be the really old people saying, look at that, a same-sex marriage, how about that sort of stuff, you know what I mean? And but as it stands now, Gen Z coming up, it's not even noteworthy, which is very interesting, And if you were to chat about all the same, to try and make a YouTube episode, for example, about the fact that it was a same-sex marriage and what are all the issues around it and all that sort of stuff. And you could debate that till kingdom come, obviously, in the context of religion and culture and tradition and all that sort of stuff. And what is a marriage anyway, and how is it defined in a dictionary and all that sort of stuff. Well, the way I'd put that, in my mind, after having been to one and the fact that I know these people because they are part of my family, having been to such a wedding and been, involved as much as I am anyway, you sort of think, this is like, thinking, oh wow, there are so many big issues related to the whole same-sex marriage debate. This is someone old talking here, because I'm old, you see. My daughter would not discuss all this. She'd say, the fact that even talking about it, you're being a bit of a pain in the neck, because you're making it something that it's not. Just go to the wedding and enjoy it, which is actually what I did, But, it's noteworthy because we are in that period of transition, just like the Catholics and the Anglicans were once upon a time. And it's a bit of a case of, someone would have come to me and say, oh, there's tradition to consider and dictionary definitions and culture and religion and even children, that's a whole other thing, which I had to think about a little bit, the children aspect, but I can't bother talking about that right now, but I have thoughts on that. And you could talk about all of that, and especially the religious aspects and the cultural aspects and all that sort of stuff. And that's the way it's been for 5,000 years and all that sort of stuff. And I could say, all right, well, we'll put all that in the scale. Everything you're talking about, all in the scale. But, imagine I've got I'm just outside my house. All right, I live right there with my wife, right? Now, and we were in a situation where we were able to say, oh, we're getting married, everybody. This is a long time ago. We're getting married, everybody. We're going to have an engagement party. Everyone come to our engagement party. It's going to be great fun. And then my wife was able to have a bridal shower and all that sort of stuff, and have all her friends down to Queenscliff and all that sort of stuff. And then the big event, and you were able to plan for your wedding and choose your dress. And she was able to do all that sort of stuff. And I was able to sort of rush out and get a few clothes on the day, the morning of the wedding. No, not quite that close. But anyway, the point is, you know, if you've got all those factors, all your great arguments against same-sex marriage, and put them on one side of the scale, you know, in a set of scales. And then, you know, after having sort of considered this wedding that I've attended, a big family event, and very nice wedding too, after having done that, I'd say, all right. And they would say, what have you got to offer against what we're saying, all that religious aspect and cultural aspects, and that's the way wedding, you know, that's the very definition of a marriage. And all that. What have you got to offer, you know, this huge weight of evidence against the idea of same-sex marriage? And I'd say, well, you know, I'm sitting in my house here, married to my wife, and we were able to enjoy the whole experience and all that sort of stuff. Now imagine if I've got a same-sex couple right next door to us over there. And I was saying, it's sort of a case of love, you know, and legal rights and all that sort of stuff, all the legal rights that come with being married and all that sort of stuff. There's a lot of benefits, by the way, and recognition in society and all those sorts of things, legitimacy. And then I say, we want to celebrate our love in front of our family and have all those legal rights and everything. Now, if I was against same-sex marriage, I'd say, but you guys over there, you're not allowed. Even you're not allowed. Now, what I'd put in, you know, if you've got all that stuff, all that those other arguments, cultural and all that sort of stuff, in my side of the scale, I'd say, you're just being plain mean and nasty. That's all I'd say. I've got to get inside.